Hopefully everyone read.
I did.
We are going to be talking about Andrea Stolman and her article, how the Dime Museum Freak Show reconfigured. Let's start off with a brief summary. Like, anyone have a couple points that really stuck out with y'all? So the gist of the article is that Miss Andrea is making the argument that a lot of the dynamics of the old freak shows have actually, they're still around. They've just changed the way they sell themselves and the medium that they make themselves attractive to us. So instead of the sideshow carnival with people of all sorts of, skeleton men, bearded ladies, she thinks that we still have these, except there are talk show guests and our talk show host instead of the carnival carny who would pretend to be a professor and parade everyone through these various oddities and wonders. Now we have the talk show host. We have Geraldo Rivera. We have Jerry Springer. And that's a pretty controversial claim. That's quite a claim, isn't it? What did everyone think about that? Do you think there's any truth to the matter that maybe we still have these, they're just taking a different form? Any thoughts either way?
I mean, I agree with her. I think she made a lot of interesting points and kind of pointed out some things that I didn't realize. Like, one of the things I liked that she talked about was saying that a lot of talk shows have these specialists. They have doctors or psychiatrists that come on and talk a little bit about it, but they're not there to educate people about this disorder. They're kind of there to give it this scientific authenticity and make it kind of okay for us to gawk at that. So we're not actually learning anything from the talk shows. We're still kind of there just looking at people.
Yeah, she does bring that up. She says, this idea of bringing psychologists on or bringing doctors on to say, oh, well, this person's dysfunctional in this way, or here's the problem. Here's why they're different. That's actually a very old thing to do. They would have, carnies or the ringleaders. They would get dressed up in their little tweed jackets and suspenders and put on some, nice dress clothes and call themselves professors. And they would, like a professor or like a curator of a museum, say, well, here's this new specimen that we've got, and here's what's wrong with them, and here's what's different about them. And they're the, strongest person in the world, or they're, hairiest person in the world. And here's why. It's because of this deformity or that deformity. They would try to give it this scientific veneer, but it's not for education. It's for otherizing. It's for making people different so that we can go, that is weird. I don't like it. And there's a really good quote from this that I'm going to bring up because I starred this. When I'm reading, I like to star a lot of things. So let me pull it up. So she's talking about a historian, George Odell, and he was a historian purely of these dime museums. And he wanted to know what was the foundation, what kept people coming back to these weird little sideshows. Why were they so immensely popular? Because you think, we're civilized people. Civilized people don't go on their free time to gawk at people who are different from them. Or at least we think that. And he was very intrigued by that as well. So, why do we do it then? This is what Miss Dennett said he concluded. The historian George Odell, after years of chronicling the museum entertainment, came to believe that the freaks of the Dime Museum served the purpose of raising dull persons from the throes of their inferiority. He thought pleasure seekers could not look at such monstrosities without convincing themselves that, after all, their normal selves were pretty good, if not beautiful. Watching freak performers, Odell believed, built self-esteem. People left freak shows feeling more at ease with their lot in life. Freaks were created by others out of fear. Modern medicine was still in its infancy, and the average person was afraid of being incurably different, unalterably abnormal. But the definition of normal was narrow, and this very narrowness, a product of ignorance, was in its way conforming. So here's the picture we get from this. You're right, it's not educational at all. Any doctor or any psychologist coming on there, it's not so much to learn about, a new form of a relationship or a serious gene disorder or whatever the topic is for that day. It's ultimately to tell us these people are different, and they're so different that any insecurities you have about yourself or your personality or your body or your family, they're not so bad. In a way, Odell, and also the author of this paper, think that the reason these dime show museums and these freak shows and these carnivals are so immensely popular is basically because they're playing off of our insecurities. We don't feel good about ourselves, whether that be our bodies, our families, our personalities, whatever. So the way that the ringleaders of these dime shows have figured out how to exploit that is they're grabbing the extremes from all over the place and showing them to us. And by showing them to us, they change how we think of ourselves. So, say, before we see these different people, let's say we have this little circle, little tiny circle, and that's where all the cool people are. And because of my insecurities, I'm way out here. What the dime shows are doing is they're saying, well, you might be out here, but look at how weird this guy is. He's way unbelievably, irrecoverably out here. And look, compared to way out here, you're in the clear. You're good. You're looking good, man. And so it's really just playing off of our insecurities is the argument she's making. Now, why does she think that's translated into modern day? Why did she pick the talk show on this note to be the inheritor of all this? Anyone remember? It's because talk shows do a very similar thing. They bring what civilized society calls, trashy, not good people, really weird. People that push the lines in ways that you think, man, they don't even have a line. and they parade them out in front of us, and they let us see all their dirty laundry. It's put out there for everyone to see. And then they say, well, they don't say this, of course, but you come away from it feeling like, you know, my family might be dysfunctional, but hey, at least I'm not married to my grandmother. She thinks that same dynamic of, I'm feeling insecure about myself until I see this guy. Now I'm feeling good. She thinks that same dynamic is what's making talk shows so popular. And I think we're all a little bit guilty of this. Okay, I know I am. Because when I go home for Christmas break, there is always a Jersey Shore marathon on MTV, and you better believe I watch all of it for a day. I watch it until I'm sick of it for the rest of the year, until next year's marathon. Then it's a constant like binging and then sick of it, and binging, sick of it. But I always catch myself because you know, you're not, normal people don't end up in scenarios like that. The scenarios that they present on Jersey Shore are not realistic in any way. They're tailored. I mean, Snooki is worth how many millions of dollars? A lot. I think another one of them like plays softball now, something for, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of them have their own clothing line. So you would think if they're so rich and if they're getting so pedicured by an entire multi-million-dollar television channel, why does everything just explode every episode in the worst of ways? So that you're just glued to the screen of like Snooki walking all around Italy looking for her boyfriend, and you're like, this is so terrible, but I can't stop watching it. I mean, don't you think if someone had that much power and prestige and wealth, that they would be making a show where that kind of thing didn't happen at all? Like the exact opposite thing happened. So like you have a normal day of, you know, reading, and then you go to a nice dinner at a 5-star restaurant and everything's really pleasant, and then you go home in a limo. That's how I would put myself in a TV show if I had that kind of money. But things always explode. And it seems like they're almost tailored to explode. I mean, they have people living together, 7 people in a single studio. I mean, that's like pushing the buttons to get you to explode. You're going to get tired of 5 other people in the same room after a month, and they all love clubbing. So why does that happen? I mean, is this really reality TV? Or are they trying to elicit a reaction from us so that we get hooked in, and so we keep coming back for more? I mean, given my reactions at the end of these Jersey Shore marathons, it's definitely, you know, maybe I'm only watching this because it makes me feel good about myself and my problems, because look at Snooki. She's a mess. She is a hot mess. That makes this 30-page paper that I've been putting off to watch Jersey Shore seem like such a smaller issue. You know what I'm saying? And so I think she's got a valid point. That, actually, I think her point is a little underdeveloped. Because notice, I wasn't just talking about talk shows just now. Nobody really watches talk shows anymore. That's for, you know, that's for, let's see. Who watches that? Oh, I'll tell you who watches that. Every time I'm at a retirement home, that's on. Jerry Springer's on. So talk shows are kind of the old generation. I'd say this thesis not only holds for talk shows, that's old hack. What we got now is reality TV. And I think it plays off the same dynamic of we're insecure, we need these weird people to come in and parade themselves and parade all their problems. And oh Lord, I feel great about myself. Thoughts? Make a short pause. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep going. Okay, I'll just keep going. And in fact, I don't think it's only talk shows and reality TV that we're getting to here. I mean, can anyone think of any other ways? Any other media or any other form of entertainment that might play off of this?
Like magazines and tabloids.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking of that myself. Because, I mean, we all know what's been happening with Kim Kardashian lately. I know what's happening with Kim Kardashian. And I don't have a TV. And even Miley Cyrus. I mean, it's we have certain people in the media who we think they're beautiful, we think they're gorgeous. We'll give them like a whole magazine of just them talking about their new single on the CD and how you got to go get it on iTunes and the recent parties with Justin Bieber. But then you see, what's that TV show? TMZ, where it's just the paparazzi going out and finding all the embarrassing photos of them and talking about it in their office. So it's this really weird dynamic now of, on the one hand, we think they're beautiful and we will dress them up in all the latest designer fashions and make them like the beauty, the sexual ideals. Everyone wants to look like Kim Kardashian, apparently. I hope not, but apparently. Go with it. We all want to look like Kim Kardashian. At least that's what everyone's saying. But I've seen like half of the magazine rack lately is just talking about her divorce with Kanye and how it's a mess, how it's a total mess. So it's odd because we have the sexual ideals over here, and then we have they're weird, they're freaks, that dynamic over here. But unlike the dime shows, they're the same people now. So it's not we have the pretty people and then we have the freaks. It's we have the supermodels and they're married to a rap star, and that marriage is incredibly dysfunctional and insane. And I think that's very interesting. But that tends to be for the females. The tabloids and the entertainment, they tend to go after the supermodels, the females. I also thought myself, when I was reading of this, of athletes, of professional athletes. And that's more on the masculine side, at least I think it is. Just go with me for a second. I'm going to show y'all a couple of videos of powerlifters. One's, well, I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I want you to pay really close attention to like the attitude and the atmosphere in both of them. You're going to see that they're doing the exact same thing, but something's going to be very different. How do I turn the lights off in here? Does anybody know? Is there just... Oh, there's just a light switch. Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the original strongman doing one of his strongman feats at a carnival, sideshow, freak show, what have you. Okay, this is just a modern day want to be powerlifter. No. Yes, I want to allow it.
In these Keep Fit days, weightlifting is getting a bigger share of the news. And here's Champ Tommy.
Allow me to present the famous inch challenge dumbbell. Over a period of 40 years, the bell has never been raised an inch from off the ground by any strongman, although thousands have tried. Arthur Saxon, when known as the world's strongest man, tried for 15 years, off and on. Maurice Derius, champion of France, came all the way from Paris. Strongfort, the champion of Denmark, and Podupny, the Russian giant wrestler. Those are just a few of the famous champions whom the dumbbell defeated. I'm going to ask Mr. Trevor Evans, a famous 18-stone strongman, to make an attempt on the bell.
Then Mr. Trevor Evans proceeds to try to lift the bell, but that bell is still down.
Mr. Wally May, trainer to Rene, the champion boxer.
Mr. May does his stuff too, and for one exciting moment it seems but no, that bell just stays put.
Bill Evans of the Star newspaper will test the bell to satisfy everyone it's a genuine iron dumbbell. I will now lift the challenge dumbbell, besides which I will bring up in the left hand another bell equaling my world record of 276 pounds, beating the record held by the late Eugene Sandow, which stood for 35 years.
So up she goes. The 40-year-old dumbbell that has resisted the efforts of all the world's greatest strongmen is raised aloft. A total lift of 276 pounds. A magnificent feat and a world's record.
Okay. Oh, great, no ad.
So many dumbbells through history. The one that's the most famous is Sear.
And that, like, in strength history, is a very significant lift.
The original sits in the Stark Museum in Texas. Rogue Fitness took upon themselves to make identical, more safe dumbbell in replicating what Louis Cyr was to have done some 100 years ago.
I mean, at the end of the day, 274 pounds is 274 pounds. Lifting that with one arm is not simple.
Okay, so let's get like the one similar thing out of the way. It was the same exact lift, same exact weight in both of them. Now, what are the differences of all of them?
Well, in either case, it was like a competition, but in the first case, like none of them could lift them except for one guy, and then in this case, it was like who can get the most reps.
What did others see?
There was also like a whole like audience like cheering on people, but like in the older one, it was like more of like it was like on TV or something. So it wasn't like live.
Yeah, in the last one, it was all about, you know, getting the reps in, bro, and everyone's cheering you on as you hoist it up like a professional athlete, because we're professional athletes now. Did I see a hand back there?
I was gonna say like in the older one, he also like lifts it with his left hand, the other like weight. And also there's like rock music playing, you know, newer one, driving you to, you know, feel strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think just what's incredible to me is that in the first one, I'm going to turn this off. Go off. Whatever, I don't care. Okay, yes, I do care. In the first one, it's this old guy, he must be like 60 years old, and he's just goofing around with his buds, it looks like. But in the last one, I do not know a single masculine stereotype that was not played on. So you got the heavy metal rock music, you know, you got the flames shooting up in the background on the digital screen. Who saw the giant Atlas statue on the side, and he's like this, and it's like a giant 10-foot, looks like metal statue of Atlas, and it's all about, you know, getting your reps in and being a strong guy, and look at our muscles, and we got to get all chalked up because we're going to lift all of this weight with a single hand. Like, I do not know a single stereotype of men that was not played on. Like, the only way they could have done it more is if they had, like, cars on stage and they were, like, revving them up as they did the lift, and you had like girls in bikinis with power tools strutting around, then that would be more masculine. But short of that, there's like no way that could be more masculine. We have flames shooting out of our weights. And I think it's so interesting that that one lift has gone from old guy goofing around with his war buddies to like hyper masculine ideal. Like, what kind of guy doesn't want to be able to go on stage in front of who knows how many people, lift a ton of weight, have crazy muscles while flames and fireworks shoot off in the background? I mean, that's like the ideal of a handsome man, or like a attractive man. I mean, granted, it's really well overplayed. It's really exacerbated. It's really over the top. But all the ideals are there. Being strong, being aggressive, you know, being competitive, outlifting all the other men, because I got to be the alpha male. Everyone cheering me on because I'm the top competitor. That's just playing off like really traditional masculine ideals in our culture. And I just think it's very peculiar how what started out as a goofy freak show thing is now being combined with our ideals of attractiveness, with our sexual ideals. They're the same people. Not only in Kim Kardashian, but also our powerlifters. And I'd say you could easily make the same argument for pick any famous football player. I haven't been in football for a while, but the one that's right off the top of my mind is Michael Vick. He was the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. He was the one that got sent to jail for the dogfighting. Before that happened, he had literally the most valuable contract in NFL history. He had $100 million for a 7-year contract. Everybody loved him. And even now, people are starting to like him again. Even if they don't like him as a person, they respect him as a player. But at the same time, he made dogs kill each other. We have the ideal of every male athlete in this country in Michael Vick. And we also have criminal felony in the same person. And we can't get enough of either of them. So this was a long time ago. This was like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. I don't know if any of y'all were watching football at this point, but it just exploded when this happened. People could not get enough of this star fallen from glory. We hate what he did, but we got to keep talking about it. We hate that he fought these dogs, but we act like we don't, because we keep inviting him to talk on our shows. And so I kind of wonder if maybe the Stoltman article understated her case, even. Maybe it's not just the talk shows for old people that are the inheritors of the freak shows of the past. Maybe it's tabloids. Maybe it's what we're doing to female music celebrities. Kim Kardashian, Miley Cyrus. Goodness, Britney Spears. Maybe it's what we do to a lot of professional male athletes, powerlifters, football players. There are a lot of basketball players too. So it really interested me reading this article, because it seems like pick any form of mass entertainment, and there's probably a string that you can start tugging on there. And before long, it seems like a lot of the things that a lot of people are really into, like celebrity gossip, or professional athletes, might just be something really similar to what was happening in the freak shows. Except now it's not just, you're a freak, so I feel good about myself. It's, you're my ideal of perfection for now, but when you screw up, you're going to be a freak. And I'm going to grab a hold of that. She's got a quote in here that I want to read off. And it basically says just that. I have to let my Adobe load, though. Let's see. So she's talking about bearded ladies in the Victorian era. Sometimes patrons were allowed to touch the limbs of fat ladies or pull the whiskers of bearded ladies. It was deeply arousing to Victorians to touch a strange woman in a legitimate, respectable setting. And it was a tantalizing and disturbing sight for the other spectators, especially adolescents. A wondrously titillating dialectical emerged, in which performers were alluring as well as repulsive. Now that's just about the most awkward quote I've ever read in front of a classroom. So I want to get a lot of miles out of that. So we have this weird thing. We can't stop looking, but they're weird. I don't like them. But I love them. But I hate them. But I kind of don't. And I think it's exacerbated now more than ever. Because now our supermodels are those, we treat them like the freaks. Our professional athletes and our powerlifters and strongmen, we treat them like the freaks. But we also want to be like them. I mean, ask any random kid who doesn't want to be a pop star when they grow up. Who doesn't want to be a professional athlete when they grow up? Or lift 1,000 pounds? But these are the same people that the tabloids spend their entire existence talking about. Spend entire programs complaining about what this trashy individual did, but they're a superstar. And I think that's actually a little bit of a mutation from the sideshow. Because now it's not just freaks, it's sexual ideals and then freaks. And I was wondering, why does that happen? And why, now that we started tugging on these strings, we're seeing them not just in talk shows, but in everywhere, all over our culture. How do you explain that? What's the framework that would explain all of that? I'd like to propose one framework. And feel free to bring in your own ideas. But there's a philosopher. I'm a philosophy major, so I got to talk philosophers. His name's Rene Girard. I'm going to write in big letters with this chalk. Girard. There you go, awkward chalk writing. And the entire time I was reading this article, I thought of him and his theories. And here's what he says. And if you know your Freud, this will sound kind of similar. He says, humanity is born naturally insecure about themselves. And they feel naturally helpless. We're naturally discontent just by being who we are. And if that builds up in us too much, we're just gonna lose it. Okay? A society cannot last full of people who are too insecure about themselves and are too aware of it. Because not only are we insecure, our insecurities make us jealous. We see someone who's better than us in, something that's important. So we say, someone's hotter than us. Someone's stronger than us. I feel bad about myself even more now. And if this gets too bad, if you get too jealous of someone, you might just try to fight them. Or, heck, you might just try to kill them. And a society cannot function like that for very long. So how do we deal with that? Rene Girard says, here's what happens. We take someone who's not normal. This might be a freak, but it might be someone who's better at us than something. Say like a strong man, like one of those powerlifters with the guitars. We'll take one of them, and we will scapegoat them. We will find a way to blame them for something and hold them accountable for it. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. And never let go. And transfer all of our feelings of insecurity and all of our envy. We form a mob, we form a group of people, and we push them out. We say, you're bad, and we shove them out. Rene Girard says, sometimes it will get so bad that a whole group of people might just kill them. That hasn't been around for a long time, though. What it looks like now is we'll just get jealous of somebody, and then when they screw up, or sometimes when we just think they'll screw up, we get a number of people who are convinced that they're bad, just like we're convinced. And then it's a whole group versus one person. And we'll do whatever sort of violence we can to that person, whether that be, shun them or socially ostracize them, make them move somewhere else because it's too bad here. I mean, he says sometimes we'll just kill them. But that's primitive. We don't do that anymore. We're too civilized. We'll do it in other ways. We'll do it in more socially acceptable ways. And he says, this makes catharsis. Now that we've demonized that person, we can feel good about ourselves. And now we're in this group. All of us hate him. So now we're unified. We have a common enemy. And that common enemy has made us sort of friends. Sort of. It'll last for a while. And that makes us feel good about ourselves, at least for a time. And Girard calls this the scapegoating cycle. So how it works is step one, we're jealous, we're insecure, we pick a target that we're jealous of. 2, target screws up, or we just imagine they screw up, and we gang up on them. And then 3, we do some sort of violence to them to bring them down to size. And I really wonder if maybe this is the framework that we're trying to hit upon, that we've been talking about so far. I wonder if by making the freak and the sexual ideal the same person, what if we're doing something like this? We are jealous of someone, or we're insecure. We want whatever this beautiful person, or whatever this strong person, or this athletic person has. But we can't have it. We don't have 7 hours a day to train football. But we still want it. And we're jealous of that. And then, when someone screws up, or when, Kim Kardashian gets a divorce, maybe we just let all that out. Maybe by making the ideals and the freaks together in the same person, maybe it's our way of convincing ourselves, that's great, but also they're freaks. So I don't really want that anyway. I'm fine with just being my normal self, can't be good at football, can't be good at powerlifting, not a pop star. Because look at the pop stars. They are in multi-million-dollar divorces. I wonder if that's more or less what our society is doing right now in the obsession with Kim Kardashian. Everyone wants to be her. So let's put her on a pedestal because we all idealize that. We all want to be that. in some way. But also, she's not a good person. So let's just throw her out. And you know what? I feel much better that I'm not a pop star anymore. Because look at what's happening to her. And I wonder if this dynamic of freak and sexual ideal is just a way, basically, for us to vent, for the culture to vent, and to say, yeah, you know, I'm not a pop star, I'm not an athlete, but they've got so much business going on, you know what, I don't really want it, except I kind of do, but except I don't. What do y'all think? How else would you explain what's going on here? Anyone have any thoughts? Any pushback? Anything that you would want to expand on? We're running out of time, so I might just close it out. So, yeah, closing comments. Okay, well, what time is it? It's actually 6:04. So I will let y'all out, what, like 25 minutes early? Yeah, that's fine.